Tonight on the Black Channel. The United States of America has a plan for black males. It is the same plan that they've always had, regardless of age, regardless of location, regardless of anything. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media. This is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, we have a lot of ground for us to cover here tonight, so I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. What happens here in the new Black Media is I cover things that I feel are relevant. And case in point, over the last few weeks here, we have watched and we have witnessed while freedom rings. Sometimes freedom got to ring upside your head. Sometimes freedom is ringing in your ears. And we have watched as events have unfolded, and there were certain things I told folks, just understand something. This is going to be immediate. This is going to be something that we're going to need to keep an eye on and watch for here, because this will be something that will be happening immediately here. And as you all know, Alabama kind of set a precedent there. And I warned people from the very, very beginning there. I warned people to watch out. Because this is the kind of thing that you're seeing now. This is the kind of thing that happened right after. Right here, right after. Now, what I want to do, I want to actually show you the story from the New York Post. But there's also a better story that goes a bit more in depth from the Daily Mail. I'm going to go into that one here as well. But I want you to see what it says here. As you can see, you see the headline, 10-year-old Mississippi boy was jailed for relieving himself behind his mom's car. Now, wait till you find the details here. A 10-year-old Mississippi boy was arrested and hauled off to jail. No, you all read that correctly. Arrested and hauled off to jail for public urination, and his mom is upset. Latanya Eason was at an attorney's office in Senatobia, just south of Memphis, for legal advice August 10th, when a cop told her he caught her son, Quantavius, urinating behind her car. Quote, "I was like, son, why did you do that?" He said, "Mom, my sister said they don't have a bathroom there." Eason told the outlet, "I was like, you know better. You should have come and asked if they had a restroom." So she said the officer told her, now check out this next part. She said that the officer told her Quantavius could get back inside the car and that he would just give a warning. We're talking about 10 years old now. 10 years old. You can see him. He looks 10 years old. But in a system of white supremacy, it is race war against your children. She said that the officer told her Quantavius could get back inside the car and that he would just give a warning. But several other cops then showed up. Yeah, you all heard this right. Several other cops then showed up for a 10-year-old. In the system of white supremacy, black male, regardless of age, we are here to make the most rabid, intimidating force possible, because attacking you is the goal. Seeing if there's a way we can turn this into a fatal situation and murder someone is the goal. Several other cops then showed up, including a lieutenant who said the boy had to be hauled to jail. Quote, no, him urinating in the parking lot was not right, but at the same time, I handled it like a parent. And for one officer to tell my baby to get back in the car like it was okay, and to have the other pull up and take him to jail, like, no, Eason told WHBQ. I'm just speechless right now. Why would you arrest a 10-year-old kid? Because he's a black 10-year-old. Quantavia said he was scared when the cops swooped in on him. I started crying a little bit. They took me down there and got me out of the truck. I didn't know what was happening, he told the outlet. I get scared and start shaking and thinking I'm going to jail. The boy, who was not cuffed during the ordeal, said he was held in a cell and later turned over to his mom. He was charged with child in need of services, Eason said. Quote, that could really traumatize my baby. My baby could go to the point where he won't want to have an encounter with the police, period, she told the outlet. Eason posted a photo on Facebook of her son in the back seat of a patrol car, as you can see here. Your white kids don't know anything about this unless they've done something dangerous. But for black children, you are public enemy number one. In a lengthy statement, the Senatobia Police Chief Richard Chandler called the state's Youth Court Act, cited the state's Youth Court Act, which he said allows law enforcement to file referrals against kids as young as 7 if they are, quote, in need of supervision, or 10 years old if they, quote, if they commit acts that would be illegal for an adult. Quote, the need to transport children from a scene depends on a variety of factors and the availability of reasonable alternatives. Now keep this in mind here, reasonable alternatives. In this situation, an officer personally witnessed a 10-year-old child committing an act that would have been illegal for an adult under these circumstances, he wrote. The top cop noted that the officer did not see a parent at the scene. Well, we know that's not true now, don't we? The mother was located at a nearby business shortly thereafter, and she was advised that her child was going to receive a youth court referral for this matter, he wrote. But Chandler also acknowledged that, quote, under these circumstances, it was an error in judgment for us to transport the child to the police station since the mother was present at that time as a reasonable alternative. So that word there, reasonable alternative, well, that's for the white kids. So it's the white kids, oh, you get reasonable alternative. This is really to arrest little black children in Mississippi. This is really to arrest little black children. The reasonable alternative, that's for the white kids. For the black kids, oh, well, it was an error in judgment that your mother who was there now, understand. First, they said, oh, well, the officer said that he didn't see the mother at the scene. And yet they acknowledge turning it over to the mother was a reasonable alternative. The police chief says this. Since the mother was present at that time as a reasonable alternative. So they give the impression that the mom wasn't there at all and they couldn't find her. Actually, they already admitted they did. So yet this was the real point right here. This was the real point here. I've warned you that white supremacy believes in going after your children. That is modus operandi. That's standard procedure. That's standard procedure because white supremacy feels that they've taken an L. They've taken an L, and I warned you. I warned you. By the way, keep your eyes and ears open. You will see things like this happening. This happened like a week after the events in Alabama. The riverboat uprising. And I warned people that things like this were coming. Now, what I want to do now is direct your attention to the Daily Mail. Daily Mail did a story about this. And I want you all to listen to some of the details that come from the Daily Mail. That's what I really want you all to listen to, because there were some extra details here. We're going to try not to belabor it. As you can see from the headline, basically the same thing. It says a 10-year-old African-American child was reduced to tears last week after he was arrested and hauled off to jail for urinating behind his mother's car. Cops in Senatobia, a Mississippi town just south of Memphis, have since apologized for the incident, with the local sheriff now calling the arresting officer's actions an, quote, error in judgment. The child's mother, Latanya Easton, said the August 10th arrest could have been easily avoided and that the responding officer went overboard by carting son Quantavius off to jail. She said she was visiting her attorney's office when her son committed the public indecency infraction, which usually only warrants a ticket, and was inside when the unnamed cop came marching in to tell her what her son had done. The furious mom said the officer was at first going to let the child off with a warning, but had a change of heart once other cops came on the scene. A lieutenant allegedly demanded cops take him, they're talking about the child, take him in to be hit with a statute for being left unattended. Easton spoke about the incident this week with Fox 13 Memphis, remembering how within 10 minutes of walking into her attorney's office for legal advice, the first officer on the scene interrupted the meeting to tell her what her son had done. So were the cops stalking her? Were they following her around? By the way, were the cops stalking her? I think that's a reasonable question to ask. How'd they show up so quickly? Were they stalking her? Car full of black folk. Let's see if there's something we can do. Quote, I was like, son, why'd you do that? And you remember she explained that before. She told the outlet how her son, who had yet to be arrested at that point, explained how he decided to relieve himself after his sister, who was also in the car, told her that the legal office did not have a bathroom. She said that first the lone officers seemed to be on the same page. He was like, since you handled it like a mom, then he could just get back in the car, she said, of what the officer allegedly told her. She claimed his tune quickly changed when several other officers, including an unnamed superior, arrived on the scene. Folks, we tell you before, this is the reason why you got to get folks' names, because by the time it makes it to the media, they will just be anonymous officers. They'll just be anonymous cops. This is why you're taking pictures of your son. That's great. You need to take pictures of the police too. This is why they don't want to say any names. Easton told the station that it was at this point the senior officer, an unnamed lieutenant, said the boy had to go to jail so that officer could file a referral against him, due both to the delinquent act and the fact he was left unsupervised. The referral saw the child, who was not handcuffed but was taken away in a police car, hit with a child in need of services charge, which will see the city's juvenile court get involved to help Easton deal with the youth without incarcerating him, cops said. People, this is a 10-year-old. A 10-year-old for urinating outside his mother's car. A 10-year-old. But there are no black children in America. You are simply incarcerated prisoners and unincarcerated prisoners. Think about that for just a few moments. 10 years old. 10. Also, the other thing is, I've warned you all about this before, that when you talk about cases of children being unattended, by the way, there really isn't a clear statute about how young children can be, before they can be left home alone. So to say that they're unattended, you remember that's an ambiguous thing. That's really kind of an ambiguous thing. Was the child in harm? Were they in danger? Were they locked in a vehicle? Well, no, they weren't locked in a vehicle. They weren't trapped, and yet somebody's telling you there's a problem still. It says, still, the lieutenant insisted Quantavius be brought in and separated from his mom while officers filled out the necessary child protective paperwork. You hear that? Brought in and separated from his mom while officers filled out the necessary child protective paperwork, something the town's police chief, Richard Chandler, has since slammed as a mistake. Now, he gives a statement here that them addressing the incident, This is the police chief. It says here, in this situation, the unnamed arresting officer personally witnessed a 10-year-old committing an act in public that would have been illegal for an adult under these circumstances. He was named Law Enforcement Officer of the Year by first responders in Mississippi in 2021. So just keep that in mind. It says here, the admission of guilt, aside from not satisfying Quantavious' outraged mother, seemed to contradict the officer's statements just before, in which he said the police did not see a parent at the scene. Oh, Jason Black said it already. Quantavious, meanwhile, remains traumatized, tearfully telling the Fox affiliate this week, quote, I started crying a little bit. They took me down there and got me out of the truck. I didn't know what was happening. I get scared and start shaking and thinking I'm going to jail. His mother, however, is more irate, though has yet to air any plans about pursuing a legal case against the department for the unsettling incident. Quote, no, him urinating in the parking lot was not right, but at the same time, I handled it like a parent. So I'm just speechless right now. Why would you arrest a 10-year-old kid? This is America. This is America. That's the reason why. This is America. That is the reason why, and particularly where your black boys are concerned. This is America. And there is a race war underway. A race war that is specifically targeting your children. There is a race war underway. There's a race war happening. Because you see, the whole reason for persecuting young black boys is to make certain that they do not grow up to be older black males who resist and stand up to the system. So you see, you've got to cripple their minds now. You've got to intimidate them now. You can't wait till we get down the road. You have to carry out these acts of domestic, psychological, and physical terrorism now. You got to do this now. So this is how you prevent them from growing up and resisting white supremacy, is you have to start acts of psychological terrorism early. That's the reason why. You do it early. You start doing it quick. You start getting them while they're little kids when they don't even understand what's happening. They haven't committed a real crime. I mean, think about this for a few moments here. Of all the things that they could be pursuing, how the hell did this make the radar? Shouldn't that be a, hey, boy, pull your pants up? Don't do that in public. Isn't this a waste of police resources? I mean, I thought we were in the middle of a national crime wave. Isn't this a waste of police resources to do something like this? Well, isn't that what we're all told, is that the cops are spread thin everywhere you go in the thin blue line? Folks, isn't this a waste of police resources? Unless, of course, this is the point of police resources. Maybe this is the point of police resources. Now, of course, if this were a 10-year-old white child, hell, if this were a 20-year-old white man, of course you know what would happen. Of course you do. Of course you know exactly what would occur if this were a white child or a white man, which is why I've warned everyone. After what happened in Alabama, I warned everyone, keep your eyes and your ears open. Watch your children. Not be traipsing around by yourselves and not keeping your eyes open. Them folks out here. Those folks are out here and they're looking for a reason. They're looking to create a reason. They're looking to make a reason. They're looking to create a reason or make a reason. That's what they're doing now. And you see, the cowards didn't go after a grown man. No. They didn't go after a grown man. They went after a child. Because you see, that's how white supremacy operates. As I've told you since the very beginning, white supremacy is asymmetrical. They don't want a straight up fair fight. That's never been the goal and never will be. You see, white supremacy is not about competition. It's about, quote, winning, or should we say dominating. So this is not about winning a fair fight. This is about domination. That's why you have to resort to terroristic tactics, because that's how you dominate without actually competing. You're not here to compete. And so the best that they can do with your tax dollars at work in Mississippi, the best that they can do is run around and harass little black children, little black kids. That's the whole point of it. Of all the things that could be done, all the things that deserve attention and are worthy of attention, this is what makes it to the top of the ladder. This is what does it. And there are other stories out there like this, by the way. This is just one of like 2 or 3 that I found just this week alone. This is one of 2 or 3. One of 2 or 3. Little black kids under the age of 12 being arrested for absolutely non-violent offenses. They're not stealing anything. It's just, oh, well, there's a law somewhere that says that we can arrest a child, while they're telling you that the police are protecting life and limb. And meanwhile, this is what's actually going on. This is what's actually happening. This is what they're actually doing. This is the reason why, as black people, we cannot be so unsophisticated when it comes to the types like Carolyn Bryant. We can't be unsophisticated about that. They haven't stopped targeting our children. And they're not going to. This is what it means to be a war. Speaking of which, being at war here, also I want to go ahead and get on the telephone lines here now, because I have someone I want to speak to here. So let me get on the line with us right now from area code 469. I think this is Attorney Ken on the phone lines here for us. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, this is Brother Ken. How you doing?
All right, Brother Ken, what's on? Thank you very much for joining us here today. The reason why we have him on here for everyone here, just giving an update on our brother Othel Ozone. As you all know, his case is still proceeding here. They're about to get ready for trial in this matter down there in Daytona, Florida. And Brother Ken is here to talk to us here and give us an update on that. And we were supposed to have were we able to get Brother Ozone on?
Well, I do have somebody on the line who wants to talk to you right now.
Okay.
Hey, Shalom, how y'all doing? What's going on? I wanted to just jump in and let y'all know, thank you again and again for the support since day one, to all those who've been supportive of me, donating and promoting and, just showing awareness to my situation. 17 days until trial right now. I currently have a court date for few motions for the 25th. And, of course, as people know, I'll be transferred soon to Clay County where the trial is set to take place. And just kind of want to remind y'all that, the best and only place to help me, again, the best and only place to help me acquire my defense is, continue to acquire my defense is Othel.org. That's OTHAL.org. Again, Othel.org, OTHAL.org.
Right on. Right
All
on.
right. Well, definitely, I
Yeah.
want folks to
So,
keep that in mind. Othel.org there if they want to contribute and support on that. So that's very, very important for us.
absolutely, absolutely, and we definitely want to appreciate and thank you, Jason, and your team, Eve, Afro, even for helping us to get this message out to a wider audience.
I'm glad to hear that as well. Now, among other things here, because I had spoken to Brother Ken here yesterday, and I had a number of questions about things in particular. He got me a piece of video that I found to be.
Brother, I want to get that call, okay?
All right, Ken. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can go ahead and let Brother Ozone go for now. Definitely, like I say, I did get the video. It took us a little while to get the thing sorted out. Now, to everyone watching right now, I've been having some audio issues. I hope I got that resolved here. I should have that resolved so that so everybody watching right now can hear this, because it's really important for what you all hear here. And I want to thank Brother Ken for getting this to me and everything. This is one of the detectives involved in the case. And like I say, I want to make sure you all can hear it. So I'm going to play it one time and you all let me know that you can hear the audio okay and everything. That's going to be important. If I got to adjust it, I'll go ahead and make an adjustment for it. But it shows the video of Othel. He's going into court, and a question that was asked of one of the detectives. And this really tells you pretty much, this really reveals a lot about this case. It really does.
Clarify the first part, the first question. Sure. So I saw the vehicle that Othel Boss was eventually in. I cannot say that I saw Othel in the car. I just saw the car with California tax.
First-hand information about why Officer Rayner responded to 133 Kingston and had contact with Othel.
I have no idea.
Okay, now I'm going to play it again because I want you all to hear what he said. At the end, you hear his attorney ask, why did the officer, do you know why the officer was on the scene at that address that night? Do you know why? And you hear the detective say, I have no idea why. So let me go back and play it again.
The vehicle driven by Mr. Wallace is not the vehicle that was subject to the bolo that we've been talking about, correct?
Yeah, can I clarify the first part, the first question?
Sure.
So I saw the vehicle that Othel Boss was eventually in. I cannot say that I saw Othel in the car. I just saw the car with California tax.
First-hand information about why Officer Rayner responded to 133 Kingston and had contact with Othel.
I have no idea.
So just so y'all to be aware there, the attorney asked him, do you know why Officer Rayner was responding at that address that day? I have no idea why. This is one of the detectives now. This is one of the detectives. So you all are seeing it for yourselves. He was asked, why? The whole point has been, wait a minute, he's always claimed that there was no reason for them to be accosting him that night. He hadn't done anything illegal. Was there a call for help? Was this official business? Why? So understand, y'all, we're coming into trial, and when you ask the detective, why was Officer Rayner there? I have no idea why. This is a case that is literally going to trial for murder. In the 21st century, this is a case that is literally going to trial for murder, with the police themselves getting on the stand and saying, we don't really know why the officer was there and accosting him. We don't really know why, but we want him put in jail for murder anyway, even though he's saying, hey, there was no reason for this man to run up on me. I got assaulted. He defended himself. And this is what they're doing. And I'm saying he was defending himself. Because when somebody runs up to you on no justification like this, that there's no way they have good intentions. And that's the whole point. If he was there on official police business, then they should be able to say what the business was. They should be able to say what his reason for being there was. Welcome to Florida. Hell, welcome to America. And that's the point that I've been making the entire time here is he's remained, the narrative has remained consistent about there was no reason to do this. And now as you're asking questions, they're admitting, oh, we don't know why the officer was there, but trust us, he should have been there. So Brother Ken, I want to thank you for getting this to us here so that everyone can see exactly what was occurring here. I had spoken to you yesterday about this also. So we had some discussions about this as well here. And so far, to your knowledge, that basically this is what we've been encountering across the board here, is that no one has been able to give a clear, concrete justification, an official justification of why Officer Rayner ran up on Othel other than, well, he was there. But they haven't actually, no one to this point has actually given any justification of what he was doing in that parking lot and why he walked up to Othel questioning him.
Correct. So far, based off of court documents, all we see from the prosecution is just speculation. Okay, they suspect this or suspect that, but they don't even have any evidence to corroborate those speculations.
Now,
so, this is why we...
Let me give a brief reminder here now. Can you go ahead and remind everyone here exactly how many years ago this was?
This was about 2 years ago. The alleged events occurred on or about June 23rd, 2021. So our brother's been locked up with no bail for 2 years awaiting trial, awaiting justice on this issue.
Now, the reason why I bring that up is because it's been 2 years. And you and I both know it does not take 2 years for the police or the state to be able to put together a series of events. Certainly not for a police officer.
Yes.
So he's a police officer. He's in a car. They know where the car is. If he's performing his official duties, they're supposed to be aware of what he's doing for every minute of the day that he's out there. So after 2 years, you're saying that you're basically telling us that after 2 years, they're still saying that they're not sure why he was in that parking lot 2 years later.
Well, as you heard from the video, it speaks for itself. The detective who the prosecution is bringing on, he says he has no idea. And the prosecution just continues to speculate. But the truth of the matter is that particular officer was actually known for not doing his job right and just flat out disobeying the law while he was supposed to be performing his job. In this particular instance, every time he went up for assessment, it was told that he needed better decision-making skills. Prior to this incident, I think it was 2019, he was reprimanded for a wrongful arrest, a bad arrest, where somebody ended up with their head busted open. And then in 2021, that same year, he was reprimanded again for a excessive force complaint by one Miss Selena Scott. And can you believe just days before this incident with our brother, Rayner was suspended for that excessive force ordeal? So I think they should have never had him back on the street. He was a danger to himself and to society. And, we just have to come together as a community and help our brother and don't let them lynch him because of the acts of someone who was clearly a bad state actor.
Now, just to recap what you just said there, the days before he accosted Othel,
right,
he had been suspended as a result of another assaulting a citizen.
Exactly. And, and the suspension was not long enough. It was basically a slap on the wrist. So in my opinion, Daytona Beach Police Department is who's responsible for what may have happened, after that. And so, with Rayner, the thing about it is he never really showed an aptitude for the position. He didn't have any college education, of course, no law school education either. He started off as a dishwasher and a line cook, and then apparently decided one day he wanted to be a police officer and mess with black people, because that's exactly what he was known for doing in that neighborhood. So that night, you mentioned that no one knew where he was. This is the reason why they can't come up with a definitive answer as to why he was there, because he did not call dispatch before arriving on that location. If you look at the video of the alleged incident, you don't see any police lights going off even. So, it was a scary moment. It could have been a scary moment. It was late at night. Rayner's about 6'2", 225 pounds. This was only a year after we all saw what happened to George Floyd. And then to have somebody basically trying to literally kidnap you, assault you, when they have no reason in law to be approaching you in the first place. When you look at the video and you see Rayner aggressively shove his hand onto our brother, I can certainly see how somebody would fear for their life at that moment.
A case like this begs the simple question, do we as Black people have a right to live? Do we have a right to defend ourselves and defend our lives? Or are we supposed to just sit here and allow people to harm us under color of law? If you are performing police business, they train you on how to perform police business. Here's the problem I have. My problem is I wonder if Rayner was trained, if that was the training for police business in Daytona. I wonder if that was the training. Because for him to be able to do, for some of these things that were happening in such close proximity to each other over and over again, it kind of makes you wonder if that is the training that they're given to keep sending him out there. Because in those circumstances, you keep doing this, it's only going to be a matter of time before something fatal happens.
So, exactly.
Now, when you mentioned about him being suspended, that must have been a heck of a short suspension, like a day or two?
Pretty much.
So
pretty much, it was about a half a day. I think is what one of our sisters were able to find out in her investigative reporting.
Of course, makes perfect sense to me. Absolutely, I see no problems there at all. Why would that be a difficulty at all? So, like I say, definitely in a situation like this, it stinks to high hell. It certainly does. I've been down to Daytona Beach a few times. And like I say, definitely it's a touristy place. It's nice and cool and everything. That's perfectly fine. But then you got certain areas down there where folks have decided that they want to make them no-go zones, or at least to let you know you're in hostile territory. And if you're performing police work as a police officer, due diligence would be a situation where how are you in that parking lot and nobody knows you're there? What police work are you performing where nobody knows why you're there, to the point that even your fellow police officers on the stand can't even defend why you were there? That should be the most basic question of all, is whenever we hear about stories on the news and the circumstances where police officers do have something happen to them, you got dashboard video. You've always got justification. They started their shift. They're 3 hours into it. They were pursuing this person here. They've called in suspicious vehicle, APB, something. In this case, nothing. This guy is just roaming the parking lot and, hey, do you live here? And I'm like, if you're not the landlord, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, do you live here? Not, is this your vehicle? And you and I did cover this before, that one of the canards that they were throwing, you can go ahead and explain to them one of the explanations or allegations they were trying to say, that they suggest, well, this could have been the reason why Officer Rayner was accosting him.
Right. Because most of that case depends on whether this was an unlawful detention. They keep trying to save their case by coming up with speculative theories as to why Rayner may have been there. And so one of the theories they came up with, y'all, is that he may have been investigating a stolen vehicle. So apparently they were able to drum up this so-called email that was sent out as a bolo, be on the lookout for a stolen Honda CRV, right? And so since our brother was in a not stolen Honda HRV, they say, well, he could have been looking for it and got it mixed up. But the problem with that is that they have no evidence that the email actually got to Rayner. They have no evidence that Rayner even opened the email, and they certainly have no evidence that Rayner read the email. And if you look at his approach, like Jason just said, he didn't ask, is this your vehicle? He asked if you lived here. So a reasonable person would say that clearly he was not there over an issue pertaining to an alleged stolen vehicle. Not only that, but now they have changed their story yet again. So we all know one thing: when somebody gets to changing their stories, they're lying. And so now they have agreed that, yes, it was initially a consensual stop, but now they're trying to pretend that there may have been a reason after the consensual stop that Rayner would have had opportunity to arrest him. But again, Rayner makes no statements about that in the video. So nothing they're saying really holds water. And if you're talking about reasonable doubt, I see a whole wealth of it right there.
Now, just to make sure we're clear, folks, here, because, okay, be on the lookout for a possible stolen Honda CRV. They sent it by email, not over the radio. Okay, maybe that's how they notify their officers, by email, so they got documentation. Okay, fine. Maybe that's the case. All right. My first question is, by the way, how long has that Honda CRV been missing? How long has it been stolen? That it came to the forefront of his mind at that time. Was it 3 days? Was it 3 months? Was it 3 years? Because in one of my last documentaries, we covered this before, that this is one of the tactics that police departments use. One of these suspect tactics they use is that, for example, they can put out an APB. Well, be on the lookout for black male between the ages of 21 and 35. Height somewhere between 5'8" and 6'4". You know, things like that. So essentially that gives you the ability to grab anybody you want to at that point. Be on the lookout for Honda CRV. Exactly. Well, how long has it been missing? 2 years. Well, okay. Well, under those circumstances, you could pull over any Honda SUV you wanted to. Now, in this case, I'm glad you made the distinction there that even if that were the case, the vehicle that Othel was in, not only was it a different vehicle, well, maybe the officer doesn't know the difference between the CRV or HRV. Fine. But the vehicle he was looking at was not stolen.
Right.
Is what you're saying is that the vehicle that Othel was in was not stolen. So we're investigating a stolen CRV. We're not in front of a CRV, and we're not in front of a stolen vehicle either. What in the world are we doing here? What are we doing? Why are we here then? Because this sounds like this unbelievably insane game of charades at this point. You're a police department. Yes. By the way, it's not like where I'm from, Louisiana, and you and I are both homeboys, so we're not like where we're from in Shreveport.
That's right.
It's not like in Shreveport where sometimes we got a good budget for the police department and sometimes you don't. We're talking about Daytona, Florida. Every police department and every sheriff's department in the state of Florida is fully funded. Florida is one of the richest states in America right now. Every police department is fully funded, especially Daytona. Especially Daytona. Daytona is a very rich area. For those of you who don't know, if you've never been to Daytona, Florida, that's a very rich area. Not just compared to Louisiana, but compared to the rest of America. Very rich area. A lot of folks with money there. It's one of the alternative spots coming up the coast and everything. If you want to get beachfront property, look into it for yourselves. Don't worry, you can't afford it. But they're very well funded. And what I'm saying is that when you have a well-funded law enforcement agency, then it should be well-trained, well-equipped, and well-organized. That's the whole point. Yes. So you're telling me that a police officer can have an unfortunate incident and you're unable to even piece together what he was doing? As a modern 21st century, very well-funded police organization in the state of Florida, you can have all those resources and, oh yeah, by the way, we don't know where our officers are. We don't know what they're doing.
Wow.
We don't know where they're at. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're doing. Maybe he'll get in touch with us and tell us. Is he on official business? Don't know. Is he freestyling? Don't know. But trust us, he wasn't doing anything illegal. And at that point right there, that really just, it doesn't just shock the conscience. It actually shocks the senses. Because if you want the public, what you're telling the public is, trust us, whatever we do is okay. That's the impression that you give. Trust us, whatever we're doing is all right, even if we can't explain it. And as police officers, I just wonder what the rest of the police force, I'm going to be a little diplomatic with what I'm going to say right now. I wonder what it feels like to be a Daytona police officer and nobody can tell you what your colleagues are doing, because that would be a hell of a thing if something happened to you and they're all standing around, oh, we don't know what to tell people. Really?
Yes.
Because to me, it's like, okay, well, I guess I better keep my own camera on to keep my microphone and my CV going all the time, because according to our very own detectives, they couldn't tell the world what happened to me. If something did occur, no one can piece it together. Or maybe that's not the point. Maybe that's not the point. Well, let me find out here. How long is it that we have here ostensibly right now? Well, let me find out one more thing. I meant to ask this also. I meant to ask this also. Has the state asked for any continuances? And I know this is a little bit of inside baseball here, so you might not be totally aware of that, but I'm wondering, has the state asked for any continuances?
Not to my knowledge recently. Of course, at the beginning, the issue was Brother Wallace was waiting for an attorney. So you're absolutely right. It would be interesting to see if anything like that occurs coming up to this trial September 5th. But we do expect that there will be a trial this time, starting September 5th with the voir dire. And we do plan to go down there in support and solidarity of our brother, not to disrupt any processes, because we feel like so long as he has a fair jury, he will be exonerated. And that's why we just want to make sure as a community we pay this legal defense fund fees, because they expected us to not pay attention to this and just do what they wanted to with our brother, on a humdinger.
And if that would be the case, they would just swear he did something illegal. In this case, they're swearing he did something illegal and the police officer's not even supposed to be there. So in a case like this, that's very, very dangerous when you tell people that even if you can prove that you didn't break the law, we still have a right to accost, not a right, but a duty to accost you and be protected. That's not a free society. That's not a free society.
No.
And the reason why I asked about continuance is because, like I say, in a case like this right here, it should be open and shut as far as their evidence is concerned. 2 years later, I want this to sink into everybody's heads. Here we are 2 years later, and the most basic detail, the sequence of events of Officer Rayner's day, it just basically goes black right before he goes into that parking lot. It just goes dark. We don't know where he is. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know why he's there.
Wow.
And that right there, if you're walking into court, what are we doing here? What are we doing when people are asking a basic question? Why was he in the parking lot there? We don't know. At that point right there, what are we doing? I want to thank you for joining us here, Brother Ken. It's been very, very informative. We're continuing to follow the case, as you all can see here, and I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, thank you so much. I definitely want to make sure, I thank you for opening up your platform for Brother O. You definitely are a needed scholar warrior in the community, so we thank you for that. And I'm just begging everyone, if you could please go to othal.org, othal.org, so that we can make sure we bring our brother home. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, and
Black.
remind them one more time here, when we're supposed to start, when the trial is scheduled to start.
The trial is scheduled to start September 5th in Clay County, Florida, and we're going to be there in support of our brother.
Okay. Well, definitely will be.
Yeah, and hopefully, some media may be covering it too here. Hopefully, Afro Elite will be helping us cover, and anything you would like to do, any information, please, we thank you so much for your help.
All right. Well, thank you very much, brother. We appreciate that. Like I say, I mean, I try to keep my finger on the pulse of these things, and I try to keep you all abreast of what's happening here, and I try to get you the insight and information you'll receive nowhere else. And that's why this video was so important for me to get my hands on, to be able to substantiate this so you can see it and hear it for yourselves, that Brother Othel's attorneys are asking them, why was Officer Rayner in that parking lot? I don't know. This is one of the detectives now. This is one of the detectives. Why was Officer Rayner in that parking lot? I have no idea. We're still prosecuting a case? We're still prosecuting a case now. You don't know why he was there because Othel's saying he was being assaulted, and the video shows that. Don't know why he was there. I have no idea. But trust us, let's just go charge him anyway. So in other words, we've completely disregarded the presumption of innocence. Absolutely. We've completely disregarded that. But then again, in America, yeah. Innocent? What you mean innocent? This is America. This is Florida. What do you mean innocent? My mods have posted the link there in the chat room, so you all are very welcome to check that out as well. You know where I stand on the issue. My job is to bring you the information and analysis you'll receive nowhere else, and just to show you, by the way, this is literally something happening in a courtroom in America. This is literally happening in a courtroom in America. They're literally saying to them, by the way, yeah, why was he there? I have no idea. Okay, well, how about we ask Brother Othel why the police officer was there? Can we ask him? No, let's not ask him. No need to sully the court record with that. No need. Just trust us. Boy, I'm telling you, do you all see what I just saw here? By the way, I just want to point out one more thing. Taking a look around there. I'm taking a look around. I'm taking a look around the courtroom. I'm taking a look around the courtroom, y'all. I'm taking a look at the courtroom. Boy, I see Brother Othel, and I'm looking at everybody else. I'm looking around the courtroom. Oh, boy. Well, looks perfectly fine to me. I don't see why. What do you mean? What do you mean we don't have evidence against him? What you mean? What do you mean? Looks fine to me. Welcome to the United States of America. 21st century. 21st century. I want y'all to think about those visuals you just saw right there. Think about them optics for just a moment. Let that sink in. I'm bringing you whole video. Think about those optics for just a moment. Let that sink in and marinate for you. You just saw that with your own eyes. Let that sink in for just a minute. I have no idea why the officer was there. Okay. All right. How could that fly in a courtroom? Okay. All right. All right. I got questions, folks. I got questions. If somebody can explain that to me, I got questions. I got questions. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. Before we do, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. Nancy King, thank you for making a difference. Sisters, Serenity, Bernie, Walter, Derek, everybody else who's contributed as well. Thank you very much for your support. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, I'll probably see about opening up the phone lines as well. This is The Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess, and I'm a certified elementary school teacher and have been for 23 years. I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One, and to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com and show your love.
More Threads, a brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen, was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' natural body butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. And as always, you are welcome to join us. Very glad to have you all with us here this evening as we're discussing the plan for black males. And I've taken you from Mississippi to Daytona, but just recognize this is the way it always is everywhere here. We're warning people everywhere. We're considered to be public enemy number one. What do you mean the rules? Ain't no rules. You have no rights. All these folks talking about we need new laws for this, that, and the other. But then again, as soon as your black children, as soon as there's something eligible to get them for, you find out why there's a bunch of draconian penalized laws already in place. There are a bunch of laws already in place that allow them to do anything they want to do. Already. We don't need hate crime legislation. As you can see, you can arrest them as young as 7 years old. We don't need any new laws. They're not using the ones that are in place now, or they only use them. You enact new laws and then they come prosecuting you for it. You fight to get new laws in place and then they come chasing and prosecuting you with them, persecuting you with them, threatening you with them, incarcerating you with them. They don't need more help. They've already got everything. What they're looking for now is an opportunity. When it descends to a point here where we're at right now, we didn't just get here, we've been here now for over a century, targeting black children. targeting black kids. That's their response to taking an L in the system of white supremacy. As I said, asymmetrical warfare. Otho was not armed that night, unless you consider his blackness to be his weapon. He wasn't armed. He was not armed. When you have a 10-year-old child here, what in the hell are we doing? Do you know how to be approaching a 10-year-old child with a pair of handcuffs? Because you see, what they told you before was that, well, them black kids, they're in school and they're making noise and they're being unruly and they're threatening the teacher. Okay, what about this situation? You don't have any of that at all. Do you know how demonic and psychotic you have to be in order to approach a 10-year-old with a pair of handcuffs? That's why tonight's thumbnail image looks the way it does. I want you to understand that a 10-year-old, are you serious? You could literally keep a 10-year-old immobilized with duct tape. A 10-year-old, you literally could have told his, even though that would be unjustified also, you could have told his mother, bring the kid by on Monday. What are we doing throwing this child in the back of a squad car? What are we doing here? And then when they got there, we're putting him in a cell. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing taking a 10-year-old to jail and putting them in an adult jail cell? What the hell are we doing here? Why, we're prosecuting a race war, of course. We're prosecuting a race war, of course. We're prosecuting a race war against your children because we're here to make a point. One of your grown black males was out of control, and we're unable to do anything about that, so we're going to commit terrorism against random children in the hopes that we can stop the next generation of grown black males from being so out of control, not so easily dominated. That's the goal. Let me get to the phone lines over here. Caller from area code 334. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Mia from Montgomery calling again.
Hi, Mia from Montgomery. What's on your mind?
Enjoying the broadcast. And as you were saying, that if we get more hate crimes, they're going to use it against us. So with reparations, this is what a lot of people, they just don't understand. With reparation for descendants of slaves, there will be a whole slew of laws for us, descendants of slaves, and that's why a lot of people really don't understand. They be telling me, they say we don't need reparation. Yes, we do, because we need those laws that's going to come and protect us, just like they do the Indians. So we really need to be pushing that reparation, and that's just about all I have to say tonight. Just we have to push it for those laws, those protection laws for us, descendants of slaves.
Because there's reparations across the board. Incidents like in Mississippi and these other places are reminding us why we need that. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I've mentioned this here before. People like Othel, what they're counting on is that you don't have the resources to defend yourself even against injustice. They are counting on you not having the resources to defend yourself against injustice. That they can commit any injustice against you and you won't have the physical ability to stop them. And even if you had the physical ability to stop them, you won't have the financial and social ability to stop them. So it's about preventing you from having access to stop injustice. When you are throwing a 10-year-old child in the back of a police car, that's injustice. A 10-year-old who has committed a non-violent offense. A 10-year-old. I don't even have children, and I'm aware of what 10-year-olds do. And yet, of all the things they could target, those police officers in Senatobia, Mississippi, were driving around looking for a child to victimize. That tells you a lot right there. Caller from area code 870, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi. Thanks again for having me. I'm calling from Forest City, Arkansas, and I want to tell about what happened to me back on April 26th.
Slow down. What is your name, sir?
James.
Okay, James. And you wanted to tell us what happened to you with the police back in April. Ordinarily, I don't do that kind of thing, but I'll give you a minute to give us the Reader's Digest version. So please give us the short version of it.
It's pretty short. I was on my way home one day after work, and my turn signal was busted, but I had just gotten it fixed. But they pulled me over for that, right? And they wanted to terrorize and ask me, could they search my vehicle? And I said, you do not have probable cause or reasonable suspicion to search my truck. They was trying to be overbearing and trying to intimidate me. I got my mom on the phone just to throw them off, and it worked. And then I said, you know what? If you search my vehicle without my consent, it will be a lawsuit. They knew I had some sense, and that's why they backed off. And this one guy saying, when I told him he was profiled, now you're being racist. I said, oh, am I? I said, God is tired of this kind of stuff. If you don't believe me, look at what happened to Wynn. See, a tornado hit Wynn real hard, destroyed that high school. And it ain't the only place this stuff's been going on at.
Well, you made a very good point about probable cause and reasonable suspicion. And that's one of those things right there I want our people to understand and know. You know, it's no longer about, are you, quote, guilty or innocent? You may know that you're guilty. You may know that you're innocent, not guilty. You may know that. What it's really about now is protecting our rights, not just knowing that we're innocent. We got to take it to the next step, which is, no, you cannot search my vehicle. No, I don't consent to anything. Name, rank, serial number. No, I'm not answering any questions. We're not doing any of that. Am I free to go? If I'm being detained, you simply need to tell me why I'm being detained. And then after that, I'm not going to say anything else. And that's why we need to be here. It's very, very important that we understand what we need to say and not say.
Another reason not to let them have search or do a search, because they can plant stuff on you and charge you for it too.
Absolutely. Another thing here, for example, one of the things they use here, they're training the officers to walk on the passenger side of the car. Assuming you don't start blasting at them. This happened to me in Georgia, the Carolinas. They lean on the car and stick their head inside of it. So what you do here, folks, I want you to understand, if the police pull you over, if they walk on the passenger side of the car, or the driver's side for that matter, you only open the window a couple of inches. You open it enough so that you can be heard talking to them, but you don't open it enough so they can stick their head inside your car. It has nothing to do with whether or not you have committed a crime or are innocent or not. That has nothing to do with it. Just because here I am sitting there with this big black SUV, and this cop done stuck his whole damn head inside my truck. His whole head, y'all. He was not outside the vehicle anymore. His whole head is leaning inside my truck, looking around like he's a damn home redecorator. And that's when I realized, okay, that's the last time I'm like, they getting bold with it. He went from standing 6 feet from my vehicle to leaning all up in it. I'm like, they getting bold with it now. So folks, just understand going forward, and there are some attorneys who will tell you not to let your windows down at all. But at the very least, if they can talk to you, you can talk to me through the window. Okay, well, whatever it is, just hand me my ticket and I'm gone. But that's the extent of it. But folks, do not open your windows like that. There's a bunch of little stuff they do, and they get real bold with it sometimes, so it can flip on you real quickly. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 559. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is I'm calling from Oakland, California.
Okay.
Well, by way of Fresno, but
this is who from Oakland?
Fresno. I'm from Fresno. This is Martin. I'm in Oakland now.
Okay, Martin in Oakland, what's on your mind?
Great broadcast. As always, excellent broadcast. I'm loving what you put out here. I had no idea they had the audacity to put a 10-year-old in an adult jail. But I noticed you're also incorporating the riverboat in Alabama, that incident as well. And I just kind of want to say the media is calling it a brawl. And I think we should look at it a little more closely, right? Because it looked like it was damn near an attempted lynching. I know there's obviously a lot of people that were there, but they could have threw him in the water, and it would have just been no cameras, a whole nother, would have just been water under the bridge. No pun intended. So I mean, that's what we have to look at. And then all those spectators. I saw so many black men, and it hurts my heart a little bit, but it makes me want to wake up and call out our coons. They took a little too long to respond, and I'm getting a little tired of it. But I just want to say that it took a little too long to respond.
Well, brother, we're a little off topic here tonight, so folks, we're talking about something a little bit different here. But thank you very much for giving us a call. We're a little off topic here tonight, so let's try to remain a little more germane. Caller from area code 940, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Romel from Chi-Town.
Okay, take your phone off the speaker for us, brother.
Okay, I think I got. No, hold on. Let me get my. All right, I'll do that. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
All right, brother Romel, what's on your mind?
Oh, well, I'm listening to what you're talking about with how the court system is a big play. I had an unfortunate occurrence that happened to me where I may have been a victim of that without going into too much of my occurrence. But I want to tell you that I am 100%. I'm looking for justice. I'm looking for justice. I'm looking at that situation that you're showing, and I know what it's like to be railroaded, or should I say, put in a situation for a 10-year-old kid to be thrown in. That even makes me even more prominent in my ambition to get justice on what I'm dealing with.
Well, I can say all over America what they're doing. That's why I was saying at the beginning of the program, it doesn't matter our age. It doesn't matter our geographic location. It doesn't matter how tall you are, how young you are, how old you are. You are in the middle of a race war. You didn't start it. You didn't ask for it, but you are in the middle of one. And everyone needs to behave and act accordingly. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 773. You're on live. Okay. Caller from area code 773 is driving for Uber right now, so hopefully they make it where they're going. Caller from area code 804. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Ben, Henrico County, Virginia.
All right, Ben out in Henrico. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, it's almost always when you hear the word on the street about these cops that get caught in these sorts of situations, always entirely different than the image that they project on the media. They're lauded as heroes, they're lauded as these great men, and so on and so forth. But the word on the street is always entirely different. The community knows them as having a history of doing dirty things to black males and black females, doing things like forcing black females to perform fellatio in exchange for not being arrested, things like that. We had a situation in Richmond where there was a cop that was killed, and the media didn't tell the entire story. Why was he in that project at that time of night? What was he doing there?
That's what we get told. We get told whenever we're accused of something and we point out something wrong. You got speakers on somewhere, brother. Whenever we are being accused of something, folks always tell us we should be able, why don't you just comply? Why can't you just explain what was going on? We're always being told about how simple and how easy it should be. And then circumstances like this occur, and all of a sudden they can't give you any details. They can't say anything. This is one of the reasons why a bunch of people still question the O.J. Simpson case to this day. When you've got whole gaps and things that folks can't explain, when literally you spent hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars investigating anything, there shouldn't be a single centimeter. There shouldn't be a single microsecond that you cannot explain after you've put that many resources into something. Hell, y'all saw with Jussie Smollett. They were able to give you the minute by minute, step by step, block by block of the whole events of Jussie Smollett. And yet, in cases like this one in Florida, or Mississippi for that matter, but when it comes to cases like this, all of a sudden, nobody's gotten the information. The very same police department doesn't have information anymore.
I tell you, it's just amazing. A lot of times these guys are rousting up or trying to get money for themselves. One, two, being a menace themselves. Doing this sort of freelance violence. Just sort of testing out their equipment, so to speak. And then you have yet others that. They're out there for the action, and whatever action that they can stir up, they're ready to respond, provoke individuals into criminality. So,
that wouldn't be a problem either. Here's the real issue. I mean, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be a problem, but even that would be less of an offense and less of a problem. It's when you got the system that joins in behind them. You see, it's one thing if you got one rogue cop out there or something. It's one thing when it's an individual. Where it becomes this devious, demonic thing is when you see the whole system lock arms, when you can show, hey, this wasn't right. Something here is obviously bogus, and the system locks arms not to protect you and your rights, but to protect the bogus part. And that's what tells you the system's not broken. The system can't be broken when it responds like that. That's the system operating the way it's intended to.
Absolutely, and they have no intentions of changing it in any way. Now they have put a few cops in jail in some of the surrounding counties around here for things that were a bit inappropriate, but never anything that you rarely see an individual that defended themselves in that sort of situation walk free, or the story is never entirely told when an officer does something that's inappropriate and violent and causes bodily harm to someone. The entire story is never told. Another thing, I noticed the media doesn't speak to the citizen. The citizen that was harmed or arrested or otherwise put in prison. They never speak to that individual, none whatsoever. You never get that side of the story. You never you may get their parents or maybe a relative, but if they're in jail for defending themselves against overbearing police, you'll never hear from them, none whatsoever. Not in mainstream media, not at all. Unfair, and you're absolutely right. The system is in lockstep against the people when it comes to these sorts of things.
Thank you very much for giving this call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 832. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 832. Last try. You're on live.
Yes. My name is Jamarcus Bossett. I'm from Houston, Texas. And I just want to get very brief and straight to the point. I know a lot of people ain't going to like this, but this is just the truth. We're going to have to put our boots on and just, take the fight to them. And I don't mean talking. I mean straight action. It's going to have to be a race
I definitely
war.
agree with straight action as well. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. And straight action would be the Otho, go to otho.org, and you can definitely take straight action there. Also, straight action is supporting what we do here as well. I want to send a big shout out to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo. Big shout out to my man Andrew L. Thank you very much for your support, brother. I see you. Mark B, Devon, Delsina, and Najee, and everybody else who has contributed to support tonight's program. Thank you very much for your support as well, brothers and sisters. It gives us the ability to do what we do, and it gives us the ability to do a little bit extra. So thank you for supporting our efforts here. Let me get caller from area code 860. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, big brother Jason, it's me, Ro, calling from the 860 out of the Hartford area.
All right, brother. What was on your mind?
I wanted to talk. I'm doing well, sir. I wanted to check in and talk about it from a different aspect from the lawyers. I read this peer-reviewed journal coming out of California talking about the crooked lawyers that were coming out of there, and that they had one lawyer that got over 165 complaints. So when I see stuff like that, that's happening in the criminal justice system, my retort to that whole situation in the California system is, where's the 3 strikes for those lawyers that are abusing their legal license and hurting people? Where's the 3 strikes for the people that's apprehending and locking people up unjustly and under the code of color of law? So that's what I wanted to call in about, and from a different perspective, because I hear from one perspective, but I just want to channel it to another perspective as well.
No, I mean, you make a very good point right there. And once again, that's not a fluke and it's not a malfunction. It's a feature. That's not a malfunction in the system. That's a feature of the system. So it is working exactly the way it's supposed to. It is calibrated. The 3 strikes laws were put in place specifically to go after black citizens, not to go after anybody else. Now, if you want to know, truth be told, there is a 1 strike. When it comes to prosecutors and things like that, there's actually a 1 strike. Why, I remember Mike Nifong. Remember the Durham case. Remember in Durham. Remember the 3 white lacrosse players were apparently wrongfully accused by a black female of sexually assaulting her. Why, they got that wrapped up quick, fast, and in a hurry, and the prosecutor, Mike Nifong, found himself behind bars. The prosecutor did. You know, that thing they tell us as black folk can never happen, and boy, you're just pipe dreaming. That kind of thing never occurs. Why it happened to Mike Nifong in record time. Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. Or Kim Fox up there in Chicago. You got the whole damn state legislature. You can't get anything done in the Illinois legislature except to go after the DA there. They found a way to get on. All of them could agree on that one now. Amazing. So what does that? Yeah, what does that tell you? That tells you that it's not impossible for it to happen. This is not a malfunction. It's a feature.
Yes, big brother, it is a feature. And I also see them pushing this black and brown stuff within the legal and the legislature. Like in the state of Connecticut, we can't, it's hard for black American people or Negro people to push policies that are effective because you seem like you have to kiss the ring of the Puerto Rican caucus or all these other immigrant groups that don't mean well to the Negro black American community. So those are some of the things or the reasons why I want to present the lawyer and said that they need to be on trial too. And if they give 3 strikes to citizens, they need to get 3 strikes too and many more. And I just want to just sign off with that, Rick, brother, and peace.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I mean, he makes a very good point in that regard, because what happens to us is that we get marched off in front of a public defender, and next thing you know, here comes your life sentence. You get marched off in front of a public defender, and here goes your life sentence. The prisons in America are filled with innocent black people. The prisons in America are filled with innocent black people. The system is set up to railroad you. This is why, in the wake of the George Floyd uprisings, you know, we were able to shut a lot of nonsense down because we were able to give people the ability to bail themselves out. And by doing that, where we bailed them out, that was requiring the prosecutors to commit that you were going to have to try to prosecute these people in court. You're going to have to give them a day in court. So after we did that, you found out, well, I'll be damned. Obviously, these people were not committing these heinous crimes the way you claimed they were, because as soon as we bailed them out and they had to be given a court date, all of a sudden you were dropping charges left and right. Now, you don't drop charges left and right when there's something wrong. I mean, unless there's something wrong. You don't drop charges left and right unless there's something wrong. That's the case. That's my point. If folk were really guilty of these kind of things, we'd be seeing something else going on. In Mississippi, you should be insulted and ashamed in Senatobia that the police would be doing something like this. There should be outrage among every single citizen, black, white, or otherwise, that something like that would even occur. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. If the police department has the time to go harass 10-year-olds for non-crimes and then go down to the police station and spend the time, quote, processing the paperwork, you should be shocked and offended in Mississippi that such a thing is happening. I say Mississippi, but the truth of the matter is it's legal in every state. You hear about cases like this against black children everywhere. Everywhere. Let me get caller from area code 678. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening. This is Carnell from Fairburn, Georgia.
All right, Carnell from Fairburn. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so support your broadcast 100%, and you're 100% on point. I think what this is doing, though, indirectly, it is training our kids to be well prepared for white supremacy. You know, that young man is going to have, it's a terrible experience for him, but he will learn from this, right? And he will grow to be a part of the warrior class that you speak of. So even though it's a horrible experience.
I don't know. Now, before we get carried away, yes, well, that could be the case, but that depends. That depends.
I agree.
Jason, what does that depend on? That depends on his mother. That depends on his father. That depends on how this is explained to him. That depends on his mother, and that depends on his parents and how it's explained to him. Because if this is put in the context of white supremacy, well, yeah, and it can't just be explained one time. This has to be explained to him throughout his life when he's at school. If he isn't given the proper framing that you're in a system of white supremacy, then it doesn't do you any good. He's going to be like, ooh, the police. One time I got took in by the police when I was 10, with no context. So what you're saying theoretically, well, yeah, that could, because it's occurred to most of us, myself included. And under the right circumstances, it could be, but it depends. It depends.
I agree. I agree. I said it as kind of a blanket statement, and I'll go a step further, though. It also depends on the community, right? It has to extend beyond mom, dad. It has to extend all the way to the community, right?
Well, yeah, but to be totally honest with you, it doesn't have to. Your mother and you, especially at that age, because your mother and your father are your social circle at that age. Your parents are your social circle. So it's not like you're talking to a whole bunch of people like that. So if the parents are on their square and are doing their job of putting these things in their proper context and debriefing them on that, then yeah, that's the kind of thing that would make a difference. That's the kind of thing that would. Without that, you'll just have a little kid who doesn't really understand what's happened unless it happens to him a lot more. There's the problem. This would have to happen to him 3 or 4 more times. If he has to learn this through experience without context, it could happen to him 3 or 4 more times before he would finally start making the connection that That's what's going on. That's him.
Yeah, and I would hope that all parents out there will use this experience of this young man to teach their children how white supremacy operates, right? We had to get an education that's beyond the institutions that's been introduced to us, because they are white supremacy institutions and they're not catered toward our black kids or even ourselves, right? I'm 49 years old, and I can remember being in school, and what I learned about was 3 people, Martin Luther King, Carver, and that was about it, right? So we have to do a great job of educating young people on true white supremacy, and true history about this country and black people in this country.
And remember that.
And I'll end my playing
that starts with your parents, man. That starts with your parents, because it helps to put it in its historical context. And the most powerful historical context is local, because the history of white supremacy in Louisiana, as far as places that I could walk by as a kid and see as a kid, you know, I mean, we had the fortune or misfortune, depending on how you see it, you know, with a full-blown Confederate monument sitting in front of the Caddo Parish Courthouse my entire life. Most of you didn't have that, except in Mississippi. You still had Confederate flags around the place. But, you know, as far as here you are walking into the parish, you all call them counties, but the parish courthouse, and there's a great big monument to Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee with Confederate flags on it that you have to walk by as you're going in the doors. You damn right getting justice in there is going to be a crapshoot, if not impossible. But when that's explained to your children, when they go by that courthouse, that makes a difference. Now, you might be in a place where there is no such courthouse exactly where that happens, but you've got something else. And that's where the parents are supposed to come in to put the city and the state and the street that their children live in and live on, to put it in its proper context so the children understand their place in the bigger picture. If they don't, the kids are just growing up. You're basically doing the white supremacist work for them. What is Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott and the governor of Tennessee and the rest of them, what are they trying to do with the history books now? Make it where your children have no frame of reference, that they're just kids, and if something happens to them, well, it's not because you're black. It's because you did something wrong or there's a misunderstanding, but the bottom line is to obscure the fact that if something happens to you, it's because you're black. And they're not going to tell you. So your parents might tell you, but they're making it out. We're not going to tell you. So we understand that's a powerful weapon, confusion. Keeping you confused, unknowledgeable. That's a powerful weapon. Bad things will be happening to you, and you'll have no real rationale or explanation of why. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 215. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from area code 215. You're on live.
Yo, what's up, Jason? This Recognized Gang from Philly.
Okay, Recognized Gang from Philadelphia. And what is on your mind?
Hey, man, I think you had a caller earlier make the correlation between this incident and similar incidents and the need for reparations. And I think that's something that I appreciate that you drive home on this platform. And I just wanted to say that the way that we can build the infrastructure that we are obviously lacking, which is something that could serve as a buffer to situations like this for us to alleviate the need to actually rely on government to deal with these matters in the first place, in their law enforcement systems to actually facilitate their rule on us. What we need to do is focus on reparations and understand that reparations is not only a large lump sum cash payment at execution, but is also supposed to be referred to universal standards and protocols, which refers to all other reparations programs that have been paid throughout the universe. So we can look forward to receiving payments, cash payments at the end of every year after execution of reparations. And we could also expect other programs for our people in particular as a result of those reparations payments. So when people get up here and they look like us and they claim that they want reparations, but they say we shouldn't get it until all black people are more financially literate, I call those people pseudo-coons. And I need people to really be wary of these types of people out here who are claiming that we should wait to get reparations, when in fact, I'm sure they're aware that reparations is a continuing program, and it's not just that one time.
Here's the
payment
thing.
at execution.
Here's the thing. That may or may not be the point. That may or may not be the case as you're describing it. However, your point is very valid. Yes, we do need reparations. Yes, reparations would resolve a lot of these things, especially the more financially and economically able. We have been artificially financially and economically handicapped. Artificially. This is not natural. This is very, very unnatural. And no, we cannot wait until, quote, enough people are financially literate. Jason, why not? Because that's an arbitrary limitation. Nobody told the Jews that they couldn't have reparations after World War II unless, quote, enough people were financially literate. And who determines that enough Jewish people are financially literate? Who would be the one to determine, okay, there's enough of you financially literate now we can give you those reparations we promised? Who's the person who determines that? The Japanese. Nobody said that they needed to wait until enough of them were financially literate. Nobody told the Native Americans, you have to wait until enough of you are financially literate. Nobody has said that to anyone except us. Now, all of a sudden, when they talk to us, it's wait now, this is some special conditions, and we need to have special regulations. We need to understand. Or do you actually know what to do with this? So, in other words, it becomes a skills and means test. When we show up, all of a sudden there's skills and a means test, and can you show us how you would use it, and this, that, and the other? And here's the other problem: you can't have reparations until you're financially literate or financially capable, whatever you want to describe it as. Folks, I've known plenty of people, and I'm not saying it's the majority, but a bunch of you have too. You've known people who made good incomes. You probably known some people who made six figures or high six figures or maybe seven. We got folk who've made huge incomes. I'm talking about smart people, doctors, lawyers, executives who've had to file bankruptcy. I can show you any number of individuals that you would consider to be intelligent, financially literate. They've got a team of people. We can go down the list and take a look at what's happened to them too. So even if even if your motives were pure, which they're not, but even if the motives were pure for saying, we need to wait until you're financially literate enough, I can show you financially literate people who have also financially met with disaster. I can show you that too. So that's the reason why a financial literacy means test is bogus. The reasons I just gave you there. First of all, who decides it? Second of all, it's owed to you. You didn't do this to anybody else. And third of all, I can show you plenty of financially literate people who got their finances upside down and sideways too. I'll let you have the last word.
Exactly. Well, I agree with all those sentiments. I appreciate that. So I just want to say, with the money, we can actually emphasize independently building infrastructure, which again would alleviate the need for the current administration and the current law enforcement to actually be responsible for policing us. And we would at least have a buffer. And
that will not happen.
Like that,
no, that's not. Reparations. That will not occur either. Please understand, as practiced in America, you all got to understand this: the laws and the patterns and practices in America. The police are not in black neighborhoods for the reasons that they would be in white neighborhoods, because they're not in white neighborhoods. For the same reason that you don't have liquor stores proliferating in white neighborhoods, pawn shops proliferating in white neighborhoods, chicken shacks proliferating in white neighborhoods. So the social economic conditions are engineered. The reason I'm saying this is because black people have been, the police are a monitoring agency and an occupation agency, and they've infiltrated black society and been around us and overseeing us since the very beginning. Not since urbanization, but since the agrarian society, since the plantations, when essentially, quote, black crime was not an issue because we were enslaved, and yet there they were. So what this shows us is that the police serve a cultural function, not just a practical function, but a cultural function that you must be overseeing. And the reason I'm bringing this up is what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter whether quote unquote crime is high or crime is low. You will have police demanding to patrol in your areas no matter what's occurring. Well, Jason, how do you know that? Well, case in point, you all remember Dr. Dre. A white man accused him of pointing a gun out the window of him, remember, a few years back?
Right.
Dre gets yanked out in the middle of the damn street. The police handcuff him. No gun anywhere. Did the police go get that white man and arrest him for filing a false report, making a false accusation? Nope. Not at all. Chris Brown, white girl in his house, falsely accuses him of assaulting her. Here come the police again. Tariq Nasheed, somebody calls in on the phone and just says, hey, he's holding somebody hostage in his house. I'm holding somebody hostage in my house. Bogus phone call. The police know this. They show up with helicopters and every damn thing else. March you out at gunpoint, knowing that no crime has been committed. What in the world are you doing this for? It's because the real point is to occupy you. So I submit to you all that even with reparations and everything else, we have to understand what reparations will do, but we must also understand what reparations will not do. Reparations, cash payments, that's not what's going to keep the police out of our neighborhoods. That's not going to keep the police out as an occupying force. That's not what's going to do it. Us being on code as a people, now that's what will do it. You witness this happen with the Nation of Islam. You witness this happen with the Black Panthers. You witness this happen even with the Bloods and the Crips, where black folks say we run the neighborhood simply because we say so as a code of conduct. That's what stops that from happening, and having the finances is what makes sure that your neighborhoods thrive and thus grow, and that as they grow, the code of conduct protects you and the financial economics are what allow you to thrive and to grow. So just recognize what it will do and what it won't do.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, because I actually agree with everything that you're saying there. So I'm a little despondent in this regard. So I wanted your expertise based on what you see out in the world. Do you think, or what would your concept of an intermediary that we could facilitate, and to what extent, what does that look like, so that we could just kind of get them, the need for them, just alleviate the need for them to begin with? What would you say?
Once again, an active code of conduct. We already have places and areas and neighborhoods where police don't go now. What you really need is an active. You need to have an active code of conduct. You do that, and that's what brings things together. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 504. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Jason. This is G from New Orleans.
All right, G from New Orleans. What's on your mind?
All right. Great broadcast, brother. I just want to point out something. This little kid at 10 years old is going to be traumatized for the rest of his life over this incident. And it's not by accident. The officers typically, and I know that being in the legal field, they are given discretion when they arrive at a scene. And when this incident happened, especially being that it was at a lawyer's office, supposedly, once the mother was there, once the officer was there, they made a determination and gave a ticket, that should have been the end of it. They wanted to go and make an example out of this kid, just to let them know this is what's going to happen to you even when you get older, boy. You will always be a boy. And that is what they have set for us. In that same state of Mississippi, I don't know if you know this, Jason, but just this week, there was a mistrial declared when some suspected white supremacists shot at a black FedEx driver who was delivering packages because the police officers failed to turn over discovery to both the state and the defense. And a detective got on the witness stand and stated they didn't provide the defense with the video, with the interrogation with their client, which to me doesn't even make any sense at all because, as you know, what happens first off, a prosecutor gets all of the evidence that they have from the police officers. Let's keep in mind they work together, and they are required by law, which is called Brady, under the rules of Brady and Kyle. Those are two different Supreme Court cases. They're required to turn that evidence over.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with that case. I heard about what happened this week and everything, so that was why they filed a mistrial for it. Here's my issue. My issue is that courts rule things as inadmissible all the time. You got black folk who get convicted of stuff all the time. Their appeals ignored all the damn time with evidence that should have been disclosed. Now, all of a sudden, we got to dot all our I's and cross all our T's. Meanwhile, we putting 10-year-olds in the back of police cars.
Yeah.
Now we got to do that. When you got black folk in prison for life right now, haven't gotten all the didn't get all the evidence they were supposed to have during disclosure. So, to be totally honest with you, that one kind of just rings hollow for me because I've seen the court exercise its discretion before in these cases and tell you that the evidence wouldn't make any difference. So they're arbitrary when it comes to that kind of thing. They're arbitrary about that.
Yeah, they're arbitrary about things like that. But I'm just pointing out how odd and interesting it is that the judge declares a mistrial because this wasn't turned over. That the defense had to have known, is my opinion, because they talked to their client that he was being interrogated. No, well, they probably have that on camera. Well, let's ask the prosecutor. They say no, but you've been in this police station probably before, familiar with it, knowing that they do have cameras. So I think it was real suspicious that happened in the middle of the trial, and now the state is going to have to spend more money to actually have the trial again, which they can be tried and possibly convicted. But to tying that into what happened with this kid, I hope that we don't just need to have these officers fired. They need to be, if anything, sometimes the officers also need to be prosecuted for stuff. I wish there was a law against stupidity, because that's what this was. This was stupid that they did this to this kid. It was racist and it was stupid.
Let's remember something. Racism is never stupid. It's never stupid. It's never a joke. It's never a product of ignorance. It's never a product of a lack of training. Racism is never, some intellectual or informational deficit. It's never that. It's never caused by ignorance. It is always an intelligent, intentional, deliberate act. Always. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is an intentional act. And just telling black people, you need to be mindful of what's going on here, what we're seeing, because they're making examples of us, especially our little kids. They did this to a 10-year-old. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, even if it was 5 years old, if it was under that age. That's just how racist they are. I hope the mother if that attorney is good, they could probably come up with some type of way to get compensation for that. But yeah, examples need to be made out of these counties and these police departments when they do stuff like this. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 864. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Herb Harris from Greenville, South Carolina, JB.
I heard from Greenville. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. The officer who jacked up Brother Paul, when somebody was asked why was he there, the chief said that maybe he was doing proactive patrolling.
Right.
He was riding around looking for expired license plates. He was walking through the parking lot looking inside people's vehicles. I'd also like to say this. There was a man named Anthony Bozer. He was chief of police in Cincinnati for 17 years. He's written several books. I bought one of them titled Police Mystique. He said Most people have no idea what the police duties are. The police have two duties: to protect the lives and property of the wealthy. And they perform these duties by keeping primarily young black and brown men in their place. And as far as a black-brown coalition, it ain't enough brown to justify it. Keep giving them that real work, big brother.
Thank you very much for giving
B1.
us a call tonight, brother. We appreciate that. B1 is always here. And yes, as far as their contention, that active policing thing, once again, that doesn't explain what he was doing in the parking lot and if it was official police business, because you would have to say that's part of his patrol. The next thing here is to say for active policing, well, what are you doing? Well, he's going around looking in people's cars, things like that. Active policing is not running up asking somebody, do you live here? You got to have, as a police officer, you got to have probable cause to approach a citizen. You don't just walk up to them, hey, do you live here? That's a violation of their constitutional rights. You have a civil right, as long as you're not breaking the law or anything, you have a civil right not to be stood up here and somebody accosting you to demand, do you live here? You're not the landlord. The other thing is, if he was in the white part of Daytona, going around looking at people's cars, what would the folks be doing in those neighborhoods? He wouldn't be getting a warm welcome if he was going around doing that in those people's cars in the white part of Daytona. So just recognize these things don't happen by accident. And then when you investigate the cops in question, you find out, oh, they got a long record of doing stuff like this. It's never, remember I told y'all this about Darren Wilson and Daniel Pantaleo, it's never their first time. Michael Slager, it's never their first time. It's always their 10th or 12th or 13th. It's always this string of violations. It's never the first one. It's never rare or unique in these types of cops' records. It's never that. It's always this is business as usual. Always. It's always the 10th or 12th incident, always the 4th or 5th victim, always the 10th or 12th violation, always. And what I submit to you all is that for many of these police departments out here, that is their definition of policing. That is their definition. Let's be very, very clear here, folks. The police know where the bad guys are. Okay? Let's stop the nonsense. Let's stop the insanity. The police know where the bad guys are. The police know where the bad dudes are in your damn neighborhood. It's their job to know. They know every crack house. They know every whore house. They know every drug dealer. They know every drug dealer's little brother. It's their job to know. You're the ones who might think that maybe they just don't have enough information. They know, man, they already know. They know everybody. There's not anybody operating in the city that they don't have information on. Folks, do you think only the federal government's got the ability to wiretap? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They know who the bad guys are. They know who the violators are. They know who the lawbreakers are. They know who and where they are. They know their next of kin. In California, all of you who have dealt with analyzing the gang injunctions in California, you know they got the whole damn list. They treat that like the damn mafia. They know everybody. They know the gang members. They know the gang members' brothers, cousins, mothers, fathers, all that, quote, random so-called information you think you got. When you answer all that stuff, man, they keep a record of all that. They know you and every relative, and they put all that stuff together. They know all of the points of connection. They know all the degrees of separation. They know who the connect is. Now, that's something you all should have been known. In America, when the drugs come in, they know who the connect is. They know who the connect is. This is why black folk, the Asians and the Latinos bring the drugs in. The black folks sell them. The black folk get mass incarcerated. The Latinos get somewhat incarcerated. The Asians get nothing. Because you the ones on the ground bringing it in. So without you, we can't get the drop in. Without you, the drop can't come in. So we can't go mass incarcerate all of you. Now, if one of you commits a violent crime, I guess we got to do something. But as far as flying it in, no, we good. Never forget, people. Never forget. They locked up Frank Lucas. They didn't lock up no Asians with him now, did they? We all know where Frank was getting the drugs from. We all know where he was getting the load from. Did you see any Asians get arrested? We all know about Frank. We all know about Nicky Barnes, but did any of the Asians get arrested along with him? In Nicky Barnes' case, did any of the Italians get arrested along with him? Had a whole bunch of black folk get locked up. Okay, but what about the Connect? I thought we tracking this all the way up the line. What about the Connect? That's number one. Never forget. Oh, the big daddy of them all, Pablo Escobar. The Ochoa brothers. Carlos Lader. Remember, they was running drugs for over a decade. They were locking up Freeway Rick and the rest of them in America, but they wasn't messing with none of them folks down there. They was letting them roll. It was, hell, Pablo Escobar had to blow up an airplane, take over the Colombian government. He had to cause a coup and every damn thing else. That's what Pablo Escobar had to do to finally get taken down. He had to do that. Meanwhile, the CIA was over there in Africa and assassinated Patrice Lumumba. Enabled the apartheid government. Knocked off Idi Amin. We can keep going down the list. Here on American, I'm going overseas because in case somebody says, well, those were foreign governments. The American government been knocking over foreign governments now for over a century. What the hell you talking about? What the hell you talking about? That's the American way. That's the American way. That's not new. So how is it Pablo Escobar is allowed to sell the ice cream? Ain't nobody saying nothing to him. A decade later, he's become one of the richest people in the world. Yeah, because he's facilitating something else. We need him to get to that magnitude. If we knock him off, then it prevents us from prosecuting our war on Negroes. Our war on darkies. Our war on drugs. So we got to have certain individuals make the drop. We got to have certain individuals move the packages so that we can prosecute this thing. Because you see, they've gotten hip to our games that we were playing in slavery, antebellum slavery, Reconstruction, civil rights. Every generation, they're getting smarter and smarter to it. So we can't get them. We can't arrest them for marching on Edmund Pettus Bridge anymore. So we got to come up with something else. Flood the zone with drugs. Make them all in laws and RICO laws. We can grab a whole bunch of folk who wasn't even doing drugs, had nothing to do with it. Don't have to ask it. Don't have to sit up here and they're going to make sure they get it themselves. They'll make sure they got it themselves. Our hands are clean. Now we grabbing a whole bunch of people, just grab them all together. Oh, if you anywhere near them, you going too. You going to have to prove you weren't involved. We throw an indictment on you. Now you have to prove you weren't involved. But otherwise, that's not the way it works. That's never been the way it works. You see all these other folks and they leave them alone. They're serving a useful purpose. Their job is to feed into that machine. Jason, what about the white folk getting strung out on drugs? Collateral damage. As black people, we understood you can't let this monster go as hard as it is. It's going to get out of control, man. It's going to get out of control. But once again, to be totally honest, that's the plan too. Because those are seen as the undesirable white people. They're the undesirables. And they're not being mass incarcerated. Black folk are still being mass incarcerated. The undesirable whites are being neutralized, but they're not being mass incarcerated. Their experience is radically different from yours, radically different from ours. Radically different. And anytime they want to stop the fentanyl from coming in, they can. Anytime they want to stop the prescription drugs from traveling, they can. The federal government is allowing that. The Sackler family has become one of the richest families on the planet. Do you think they're about to shut that down? They've become one of the richest families on the planet, with essentially heroin in pill form. You think they gonna walk in there and bring a bunch of white folk out of there in handcuffs? Please, getting rich off of selling illegal stuff that you incarcerate other people for? That's been the American way. Been the American way. 21st century, you thought the rules changed, the game doesn't change? People, do you know how damn bold they are with it now? Man, they making documentaries, and John Oliver's done talked about it. Man, you making HBO documentaries and ain't changing a damn thing. They are operating their evil empires in broad open daylight. Broad open daylight. They run around trying to figure out how they can arrest rappers for making an album. They're not trying to arrest the white record executives, not trying to arrest the Sackler family. None of that. That's not accidental. It's not that these people are stupid or crazy. The system is engineered to make sure that you stay under control, you stay penalized, and everybody else can capitalize off of it. And if some white folks get hurt in the process, that's just collateral damage. That's just collateral damage. What happens to your kids is no accident. They know what they're doing. That's the point. That's the goal. To leave them terrorized, that's the goal. Because that serves as a warning to all the others. Remember, folks, it is white supremacy because it is injustice. It's not white supremacy because it's justice. You can't exercise white supremacy without injustice. Folks, remember, I've talked to these people. Jared Taylor, Richard Spencer, I talked to them. Justice, no, that's the exact opposite. They don't want fairness. They're like, look, white supremacy is not about fairness. And they don't want to hear from any white people telling them or trying to preach to them the virtues of fairness. White supremacy is about the ability to mistreat people, not accidentally. It is about having the freedom and the power to mistreat people. They over there, the white supremacists over there, like, miss me with the damn fairness stuff you talking about. It's not white supremacy if we're not unjust. It's not white supremacy unless it's injustice. And you have to make these big, bold gestures of injustice. There have to be these big, large gestures of injustice. So you can show them that we can get away with it, or they try to give the impression that they can. On the plantations, they would grab some innocent black folk and make an example out of them to give the impression that we can do whatever they want to. And then a Denmark VC or Nat Turner jumps up and all of a sudden the rules change. Nothing has changed today. They do these things for the purposes of terrorizing. They do it for that purpose. That's why I'm highlighting it here today. And the goal for all of us is to remain on code. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo, and Man Black Voltron. Thank you very much for your support. Am, Ray, and everybody else here. Big shout out here, especially here to Brenda Starr. Thank you very much for your support, sister. I appreciate that as well. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent black thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on tonight's program. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you for watching live or recorded. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, The Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.